The massive alien ship appeared without warning, materializing just beyond Earth's moon. Its dark metal hull stretched over 20 kilometers, dwarfing humanity's largest space stations. Earth's military satellites immediately detected the vessel, sending automated alerts to every major defense center on the planet. In the United Earth Defense Force headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral James Miller stared at the holographic display with a mixture of awe and concern. After decades of searching the stars for alien life, they had finally arrived. But not in the way anyone had hoped. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Lieutenant Mark Wilson, his fingers dancing across the control panel. "They're using perfect English. Somehow they've decoded our languages." Miller straightened his uniform. "Put them through." The holographic display shifted, revealing a tall, gray-skinned being with 4 eyes and ornate metallic armor. Its voice echoed through the command center with unnatural precision. "Primitive species of Earth, I am Lord Grey, commander of the Imperial First Fleet. Your world now lies within the boundaries of the Galactic Empire. We have monitored your development and deemed you worthy of absorption into our civilization. Resist, and you will be eliminated." Miller kept his voice steady despite his racing heart. "This is Admiral James Miller of the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome peaceful contact with other civilizations, but we will not submit to threats. Perhaps we can discuss this as equals." Lord Grey's upper eyes narrowed. "Equals? Your species has barely mastered solar system travel. Your weapons are primitive. Your cities are vulnerable. You have nothing to offer except obedience." Behind Miller, technicians worked frantically, gathering data on the alien vessel. Earth's military forces were quietly mobilizing, but everyone knew they were facing technology far beyond their current understanding. "We have more to offer than you might think," Miller replied. "Humanity has a long history of surprising those who underestimate us." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You have 1 Earth day to surrender. To demonstrate our power, we will now eliminate your Mars colony. Consider it a preview of what awaits Earth should you resist." The transmission cut off. Miller immediately turned to his staff. "Get me Mars Command. Tell them to activate the shield protocol." But before anyone could act, the alien ship fired a brilliant beam of energy toward Mars. The command center watched in horror as the beam approached the red planet, then suddenly curved away, missing the Mars colony entirely. "Sir," Wilson called out, "the Mars defense grid just activated. They've deployed the experimental gravity deflectors." For the first time that day, Miller smiled. The aliens didn't know that humanity had recovered a crashed alien ship 30 years ago. While they couldn't replicate its drive system, Earth's scientists had learned enough to develop basic defensive technologies. The alien ship fired again, and again their attack was deflected. Lord Grey's face appeared once more on the holographic display, his 4 eyes wide with surprise. "Impossible. Your species should not have such technology." Miller stood tall. "As I said, Lord Grey, humanity is full of surprises. We've been preparing for this day for a long time. I suggest you reconsider your approach." "This changes nothing," Lord Grey snarled. "You have only prolonged the inevitable. When I return with the Imperial fleet, your pathetic defenses will mean nothing." The alien ship vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving Earth's military leaders to prepare for what they knew would be the greatest challenge in human history. In the following hours, Miller coordinated with defense forces worldwide. Humanity had held off the first contact, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. As he looked at the determined faces around him, Miller felt a surge of pride. Humanity might be younger than the Galactic Empire, but they had something the Empire clearly lacked: the will to fight against impossible odds. "Send word to all commands," Miller ordered. "Operation Defender begins now. If they want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget." The first battle was over, but the real war was about to begin. Humanity would show the galaxy why it was never wise to underestimate Earth. 1 week after the first contact, the Empire returned. This time, they brought 50 ships, each one larger than the first. The massive fleet emerged from hyperspace in a perfect formation, their dark hulls blocking out the stars behind them. In the hidden bunker beneath Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, Colonel Robert Davis watched the enemy fleet through advanced telescopes. Next to him, Dr. Anna White adjusted her glasses as she studied the readings from their quantum sensors. "They're positioning themselves for an attack pattern," Davis said, his voice calm despite the tension. "Just like we predicted." "Perfect," Anna replied with a slight smile. "They have no idea what's waiting for them." The Empire's ships spread out, creating a wide net around Earth's solar system. Their formation was flawless, exactly what you'd expect from a civilization that had conquered thousands of worlds. But this time, they faced an enemy that had spent decades preparing for this exact moment. Lord Grey's voice boomed across all communication channels. "Humans, your time has ended. Witness the true power of the Galactic Empire." The alien fleet opened fire simultaneously. Thousands of energy beams streaked toward Earth, Mars, and the major space stations. For a moment, it seemed like humanity's end had come. Then something remarkable happened. Hundreds of small objects scattered throughout the solar system suddenly activated. They were quantum mirrors, devices that could redirect energy weapons back at their source. The Empire's attack bounced back, catching them completely by surprise. 3 Imperial ships exploded immediately. Others suffered heavy damage, their perfect formation breaking apart in confusion. "Now," Davis ordered, "launch Operation Thunderbolt." From hidden bases across the solar system, Earth's new quantum fighters emerged. They were small, fast, and nearly impossible to detect. While the Empire had focused on building massive ships, humanity had developed technology that turned size into a disadvantage. The quantum fighters darted between the Imperial ships, their advanced AI pilots performing maneuvers that would have killed human pilots. They fired precise shots at weak points that human intelligence had identified during the first encounter. "Their shields are based on predictable patterns," Anna explained as they watched the battle. "Our quantum weapons change frequency faster than their shields can adapt. Basic physics, really. They just never imagined a primitive species could figure it out." Lord Grey's voice came through again, but this time it was filled with panic. "This is impossible. Your technology cannot be this advanced. You are nothing but savages." Davis pressed a button on his console, opening a channel. "You made 3 mistakes, Lord Grey. First, you assumed we were primitive because we chose not to expand aggressively. Second, you thought we wouldn't be prepared for aliens because we hadn't contacted you first. But your biggest mistake, you threatened our home." The battle continued for hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Empire's mighty fleet, designed to intimidate through size and power, proved vulnerable to humanity's smaller, smarter weapons. One by one, their ships either retreated or were destroyed. When only 10 Imperial ships remained, Lord Grey finally gave the order to withdraw. The surviving vessels vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of their defeat. In the Europa bunker, the command staff celebrated, but Davis and Anna remained serious. They knew this was just the beginning. "They'll be back," Anna said, studying the damage reports. "And they'll bring everything they have." Davis nodded. "Yes, but now they know they can't simply bully us into submission, and we haven't even shown them our best weapons yet." As the cleanup began, humanity's defenders prepared for the next phase of the war. They had won this battle through preparation and innovation, but the Empire would return with new tactics and greater numbers. Still, for the first time in its history, the Galactic Empire had faced a serious defeat. Across their territory, news of the battle would spread, showing other conquered species that the Empire wasn't invincible after all. The Empire had wanted to teach humanity a lesson. Instead, they had learned one themselves. Never underestimate the species that had survived countless challenges on their brutal, beautiful Earth. The Imperial High Command was in chaos. Never in their 10,000-year history had they faced such humiliation. Their response was predictable. They assembled the largest fleet ever seen in the galaxy. 1,000 warships appeared at the edge of the solar system, their massive forms blocking entire star fields from view. At their center was the Imperial Dreadnought, a ship so large it could have housed an entire country. Captain Lisa Stone stood on the bridge of the Earth ship, defiant, watching the enemy fleet through the quantum viewing screen. Her small vessel was hiding in the asteroid belt, one of hundreds of human ships scattered throughout the solar system. "They brought their whole party this time," said her second-in-command, John Reed, studying the tactical display. "Guess we really made them angry." Lisa smiled. "Good. Angry enemies make mistakes. All ships initiate stealth protocols." The human fleet disappeared from all conventional scanning systems. This was humanity's newest trick, quantum camouflage that bent light and energy around their ships, making them virtually invisible. The Imperial fleet's new commander, High Admiral Rex, broadcast his message: "Humans, your primitive tricks will not save you this time. Surrender now, or we will destroy every rock, every station, every outpost in your system." Lisa sent a private message to her fleet. "Remember your training. Small unit tactics. Hit and run. Make them chase shadows." The battle began with the Empire's typical overwhelming force. Their ships launched a barrage that could have cracked a planet. But they were firing at empty space. The human bases they targeted were just holograms. "Now," Lisa ordered, "Operation Ghost Dance begins." Human ships appeared from nowhere, striking with precision at the Empire's support vessels. Supply ships exploded, communication relays went dark, and sensor arrays shattered. Before the Empire could respond, the human ships vanished again. "Status report," Lisa commanded. 30 enemy ships disabled. Reed reported. "No casualties on our side. They still can't track us through the quantum camouflage." The Imperial fleet's perfect formation began to break. Their massive ships turned slowly, trying to protect their vulnerable support vessels. But they were fighting an enemy they couldn't see, who struck from all directions at once. High Admiral Rex's voice boomed again, but now there was a note of uncertainty in it. "Face us in proper combat, you cowards. Stop hiding in the shadows." Lisa keyed her calm. "Why?" "Because your big ships can't handle real combat. Here's a lesson in human warfare. The biggest army doesn't always win." Hours passed. The Empire's mighty fleet began to look like a wounded giant, swatting at invisible insects. Their ships fired randomly into space, hoping to hit something, anything. But the human vessels were too quick, too small, too smart. "They're clustering their ships together," Reed observed, "trying to protect their flanks." "Exactly what we wanted," Lisa said. "All ships, Phase 2. Show them why that's a bad idea." The human fleet decloaked simultaneously, appearing in a sphere around the clustered Imperial ships. But instead of attacking, they activated their quantum disruption fields, a technology that played havoc with the Empire's shields and engines. Trapped in their own formation, unable to maneuver effectively, the Imperial ships began to collide with each other. Their mighty weapons were useless against enemies that could disappear at will. Finally, High Admiral Rex gave the order to retreat. The Imperial fleet limped away, leaving behind hundreds of damaged or destroyed ships. As the human fleet regrouped, Lisa addressed her crew. "Today we showed them something they've never understood. It's not the size of your ships that matters, it's how smart you are with them." But even as they celebrated this victory, Lisa knew the war was far from over. The Empire would be back, and next time they would bring something worse than ships. "Send word to command," she ordered. "Tell them to prepare for Phase 3. The Empire just learned they can't beat us in space, which means they'll try to hit us where we live next." The stars seemed a little dimmer as the human fleet headed home, preparing for what they knew would be the hardest part of the war yet. Commander Alan West stood in the dimly lit control room of humanity's most secret weapon, the quantum jump network. Around him, Massive quantum computers hummed quietly, calculating coordinates across thousands of light years. "Final checks complete," reported Technical Officer David Moore. "The network is ready. All teams are in position." West nodded, his eyes fixed on the holographic map showing both human and Imperial territories. After months of battles in the solar system, it was time to take the fight to the enemy. "Begin Operation Leapfrog," West commanded. "Show them what real faster-than-light travel looks like." Unlike the Empire's ships, which had to physically travel through hyperspace, the quantum jump network could instantly transport ships anywhere in the galaxy where humans had placed a quantum beacon. For the past year, stealth drones had been secretly planting these beacons throughout Imperial space. "First wave, initiate jump sequence," Moore announced. In orbit around 50 different Imperial worlds, human warships suddenly appeared out of nowhere. There was no warning, no hyperspace distortion, no time for the Empire to react. One moment their worlds were safe, the next they were under attack. From his command center, West watched as confusion spread through the Imperial communications network. "They still think we're trapped in our solar system," he said with a grim smile. "Time to show them how wrong they are." The human ship struck with surgical precision, targeting military installations and shipyards. They didn't harm civilian areas. This wasn't about revenge, but about dismantling the Empire's ability to make war. "Sir," Moore called out, "Imperial command is in chaos. They're trying to recall their fleets to defend their core worlds, but they can't figure out how we're moving so fast." The Empire's response was predictably slow. Their massive ships had to travel through hyperspace, taking hours or days to reach the attacked worlds. By the time they arrived, the human forces had already jumped to new targets. West opened a channel to all human ships. "Remember the plan. Hit fast, hit hard, then jump out. Don't get drawn into extended battles. Let them waste fuel and time chasing us." Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Imperial shipyards destroyed. Military bases disabled. Communication networks disrupted. The mighty Empire found itself unable to defend against an enemy that could appear anywhere, anytime. "Sir," Moore said, "we're intercepting a transmission from Imperial High Command. They think we must have thousands of ships to attack so many targets at once." West laughed. "We have less than 100 ships, but when you can be anywhere in an instant, you don't need a massive fleet." The Empire's response grew increasingly desperate. They began positioning ships around every major world, spreading their forces thin. Exactly as planned. "Phase 2, West ordered. Target their supply lines." Human ships began appearing along Imperial trade routes, disrupting the flow of resources and supplies. The Empire's economy, built on the assumption of safe space travel, began to crumble. "Message from Imperial Command," Moore reported. They're asking for a ceasefire." West shook his head. "Not yet. They need to understand they can't just rebuild and try again. All ships, execute Phase 3. In a synchronized attack, human ships appeared simultaneously in orbit around 100 Imperial worlds. They didn't fire a shot. They didn't need to. Their presence alone demonstrated that nowhere in the Empire was safe from human reach. "Broadcast on all Imperial frequencies," West commanded. Message begins. "To the Galactic Empire, you thought distance would protect you. You thought you could attack Earth while keeping your world safe behind the barrier of space. You were wrong. We can reach any point in your empire instantly. Remember that before you consider attacking us again." The message was clear. The Empire's greatest advantage, its vast territory, had become its greatest weakness. They couldn't defend everywhere at once against an enemy that could appear anywhere. As the human ships jumped back home, West knew the war had reached a turning point. The Empire would never again feel safe behind its walls of space and time. The hunters had become the hunted. The Imperial Palace on the capital world of Prime shook with explosions, not from human attacks, but from within. The Empire was tearing itself apart. Admiral Tom Baker watched the chaos unfold through live feeds from stealth drones. Beside him, Intelligence Officer Kate Roberts sorted through incoming reports from their network of spies and allies. 3 more systems have declared independence, Kate reported. The Centauri Cluster, the Orion Worlds, and the Pleiades Federation. They're all requesting Earth's protection. The Empire's defeats had sparked what everyone had been waiting for: rebellion. Centuries of oppression had created a powder keg. Humanity had simply provided the spark. The Empire's falling faster than we expected, Baker observed. Their own arrogance is destroying them more effectively than our weapons ever could. On the main screen, they watched as Imperial ships fought each other above Prime. The noble houses, which had ruled the Empire for millennia, were now battling for control of what remained. "Sir," Kate said urgently, "we're receiving a priority transmission. The Drakon species wants to defect. All of them." This was huge news. The Drakon were the Empire's best warriors, feared across the galaxy. Their loyalty had been considered unshakable. Baker opened the transmission. A massive, scaled being appeared on screen. "I am General Rake of the Drakon Fleet. We have watched how you fight. You strike to disable, not destroy. You protect civilians. You show mercy to enemies. This is true strength. We would ally with such warriors." "Welcome aboard, General," Baker replied. "We'll send coordinates for a secure meeting point." As the transmission ended, more reports flooded in. The Empire's subject races were rising up everywhere, using tactics they'd learned from watching human battles. Small ships against large, hit-and-run attacks, quantum technology shared by Earth's scientists. "Lord Grey's personal fleet has mutinied," Cave announced. "They're demanding the Imperial Council step down." Baker smiled grimly. "The same Lord Grey who threatened to destroy Earth. Interesting how things change." The rebellion spread like wildfire through Imperial space. Centuries of technological suppression had left most worlds dependent on the Empire. But humanity offered something different: partnership and shared knowledge. "Sir," Kate's voice was urgent, "the Imperial Council is splitting. 3 members have fled to the outer regions. 2 are under arrest by their own guards. And the High Chancellor." "What about the Chancellor?" Baker asked. "He's requesting asylum. On Earth." The command center fell silent. The leader of the Empire, the being who had authorized the attack on Earth, was admitting defeat in the most dramatic way possible. Baker keyed his comm. "Get me Earth Command. They need to hear this directly." But before he could make the call, new alarms blared. Kate's face went pale as she read the incoming data. "Sir, the Loyalist Imperial forces, they're activating something. Something big. Energy readings are off the charts." Baker's expression hardened. "They're desperate, and desperate empires are the most dangerous. Send word to all allied forces. Prepare for Phase 6. The Empire's about to show us their final weapon." Throughout Imperial space, the rebellion continued. Worlds that had been enemies for centuries united against their common oppressor. The Empire's mighty fleets were caught between human precision strikes and internal betrayal. "Status report on Allied fleet formation," Baker asked. 23 species have joined us so far," Kate replied, "including 7 we didn't even know existed. They were hiding from the Empire, building their forces in secret." Baker nodded. "The enemy of my enemy. Send them our tactical updates and quantum shield specifications. They'll need them for what's coming." As they watched the Empire crumble, Baker couldn't help but feel a mix of pride and concern. Humanity had wanted to defend itself, but they'd ended up starting a revolution that spanned the galaxy. "All forces, battle stations," he ordered. "The Empire's going to try one last gambit, and whatever it is, it's going to be big." The real test was about to begin, not just for humanity, but for every species that dared to dream of freedom. Deep in Imperial space, something massive was awakening. The Empire's ultimate weapon, hidden for centuries, began to unfold, a machine the size of a small moon, built to consume stars and channel their energy into unstoppable waves of destruction. Dr. Mary Roberts studied the data in Earth's quantum lab, her eyes widening as she understood what she was seeing. "It's impossible," she whispered. "They've built a Star Eater." "How bad?" asked General Bill Thompson, who stood behind her, watching streams of numbers flow across multiple screens. "Bad enough to destroy entire solar systems," she replied. "They're planning to aim it at Earth first, then hit every rebellious world one by one." The quantum sensors showed Imperial forces gathering around the weapon. Even with their fleet in chaos, they had managed to assemble thousands of ships to protect their doomsday device. "There's something wrong with their design," Mary said suddenly, her fingers flying across the holographic keyboard. "The energy patterns. They're not stable." The Empire scientists were so focused on making it powerful, they ignored basic quantum mechanics. General Thompson leaned forward. "Can we use that?" "Maybe, but we'll need to get close. Very close." The next hour was a blur of activity. Every Allied ship in the galaxy received new orders. The combined fleet of humans, Dracon warriors, and 24 other species assembled at predetermined quantum jump points. "All ships report ready," announced Captain Mike Howard from the bridge of Earth's flagship Defender. "We're awaiting your signal, Doctor." Mary took a deep breath. The weapon's power core uses controlled quantum singularities, but their containment field has a flaw. If we hit it with precisely calibrated quantum pulses from multiple directions at once, it'll collapse in on itself, Thompson finished, taking their whole fleet with it. "If we time it wrong, we'll lose everything," Mary warned. "The blast radius will be enormous." Thompson nodded grimly. "Send the coordinates. All ships prepare for synchronized quantum jump." Across the galaxy, hundreds of ships vanished simultaneously, reappearing in a perfect sphere around the Imperial weapon. The Empire's defenders, caught by surprise, scrambled to respond. "Enemy ships launching," Howard reported. "They're moving to intercept." "Hold position," Mary commanded. "Everyone must fire at exactly the right moment, or this won't work." The Imperial fleet opened fire, their massive weapons blazing across space. Allied ships took hits, their quantum shields straining against the onslaught. But they held their positions, waiting for Mary's signal. The Star Eater began to glow, its core charging with the power of a stolen sun. In minutes, it would be ready to fire. "Energy levels reaching critical," Mary announced, her voice steadied despite the chaos. "All ships, target these coordinates. Fire on my mark." The weapon's barrel oriented toward Earth, 9 light-years distant. The Empire's final message blared across all channels. "Watch as your precious homeworld burns." "Now," Mary shouted. Hundreds of quantum beams struck the weapon's core simultaneously, each precisely calibrated to exploit the flaw in its design. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the impossible machine began to implode. Its massive frame twisted inward, gravity itself turning against its creators. Imperial ships tried to flee, but they were caught in the growing gravitational pull. "All ships, emergency quantum jump," Thompson ordered. "Get clear." The Allied fleet vanished just as the weapon collapsed completely, creating a brief, brilliant flash that outshone nearby stars. When it faded, nothing remained of the Empire's ultimate weapon or the fleet that had protected it. In Earth's quantum lab, Mary finally allowed herself to breathe. "It worked," she said softly. "They won't be building another one of those." "No," Thompson agreed. "They won't. Because this time, we're not just going to defeat them. We're going to help them rebuild something better." The Empire's final gambit had failed. Their greatest weapon had been destroyed by the very people they had dismissed as primitives. Now, all that remained was to transform an empire of fear into something new, a federation of equals, built on cooperation instead of conquest. As celebration messages poured in from across the galaxy, Mary looked at the stars through the lab's window. For the first time in millennia, they promised hope instead of terror. 1 month after the destruction of the Star Eater, representatives from 100 species gathered in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly on Earth. The Great Hall, built with a combination of human and alien technology, sparkled under artificial sunlight. Ambassador Peter Wilson stood at the central podium, looking out at the diverse gathering. Former enemies sat side by side. Imperial nobles next to rebellion leaders, Tricon warriors beside species they had once hunted. Today marks a new chapter in galactic history, Peter began. Not a story of conquest or submission, but one of cooperation and mutual respect. In the audience, the former High Chancellor of the Empire sat quietly, his once ornate robes replaced by simple diplomatic attire. Next to him, Admiral Miller, the man who had faced the Empire's first threat, nodded in approval. Humanity fought not to destroy the Empire, Peter continued, but to end its policy of domination. Now we offer our hands in friendship. Our technology, our resources, our knowledge, all will be shared. The Assembly Hall's displays showed scenes from across the galaxy. Former Imperial worlds were being rebuilt. The Quantum Jump Network, once a military secret, now connected peaceful trade routes. Ships that had fought each other now worked together to explore unknown regions of space. The Empire's greatest mistake, Peter said, was believing that strength comes from dominance. True strength comes from unity, from diversity, from the sharing of ideas. Dr. Mary Roberts, seated in the front row, watched as her quantum theories were already being applied to civilian use. Hospitals were using modified quantum technology to cure diseases. Farming worlds were using it to predict weather patterns. What had been weapons were becoming tools of peace. We propose a new organization, Peter announced. The Galactic Federation of Free Worlds. Each member equal, each voice heard. No more conquered races, no more enforced loyalty. The former High Chancellor stood, walking slowly to the podium. The hall fell silent. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. The Empire, he said, his voice carrying clearly, stood for 10,000 years. We thought this made us wise. Instead, it made us stagnant. Humanity, in mere months, showed us more about innovation and adaptation than we had learned in millennia. He turned to face the assembly. I formally dissolve what remains of the Galactic Empire. In its place, I pledge my support to this federation. Not as a ruler, but as an equal member. The hall erupted in applause. Species that had been mortal enemies now embraced. Ancient grudges began to fade in the light of new possibilities. Ambassador Wilson raised his hands for quiet. But let this be a lesson to all of us. Power does not give the right to rule. Technology does not grant superiority. It is how we use our abilities that defines us. On screens throughout the hall, ships of different species worked together to dismantle the Empire's weapons of war. The materials were being repurposed, not destroyed, but transformed into tools of peace. Earth will serve as the Federation's headquarters, Peter concluded, not because we conquered the Empire, but because we chose mercy over vengeance, understanding over destruction, hope over fear. As the Assembly moved to ratify the Federation's charter, Admiral Miller approached Dr. Roberts. Did you ever imagine, he asked, when you were developing quantum theories, that they'd end up saving the galaxy? Mary smiled. Not saving it, she corrected, changing it. And this is just the beginning. She was right. Already, combined research teams were making breakthroughs that neither humans nor aliens could have achieved alone. The galaxy was entering an unprecedented age of discovery and cooperation. The empire that had dared to challenge humanity had indeed faced humiliation, but not destruction. Instead, they had been shown a better way. Their defeat had led not to their end, but to their transformation. As the first session of the Galactic Federation concluded, the assembled representatives looked toward the stars with new eyes. The galaxy was vast, but it was no longer divided. The age of empires was over. The age of cooperation had begun.